All right, as the NBA playoffs are winding down to the last four, I ain't talking about them. I was like, more so, I was like, I know, probably old news, but hey, who cares? I'm the one getting to it. The Mavs got the number one pick. I was like, we had all the hoopla, the hysteria, the oh my god, what's going on? Conspiracy? Is it rigged? All this other stuff about it. But hey, whatever, who cares? It's over with. Now we're here at the point that they got the number one pick. And basically, what do they do with it? Do they trade it? Do they keep it? Take Flag? So I was like, I've seen people basically present that, hey, can they really do this two timeline thing? And that goes back to basically Golden State when they were trying to do the whole two timeline thing with Kaminga, who they have not done a good job with. Moses Moody, who I think they also hasn't done a good job with. James Wiseman, who they just said bye and got him up out of there. Now, what I think the difference is in that scenario is the fact that they were trying to do this with three and a couple more other players. I was like, they're still even sort of trying. They were still even sort of trying to do this with Pods and Trey Jackson and stuff like that. So I was like, so they've been attempting this for a good while. Now I was like, should they have at some point, move off some of them to get like maybe a young veteran or something like that. Which they sort of did. They ended up getting Wiggins and stuff like that, and that worked out to a championship and stuff. But and you've seen sort of how it's been with them at Kaminga and stuff like that. But I don't think the same thing applies here in the two timeline aspect. To me, this one is a little bit more similar to me of the 2004 Pistons. Yeah, I believe that was that. Yeah, where I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, because it was from the 2003 draft. My bad. When it was basically they had a choice of Carmelo Anthony, or Darko Milicic. Yes, it was also Wade and Bosh that they could have got there, but the choice they ended up making was Darko. The other one was Carmelo Anthony. The reason I said similar to that is that was a team that was really playoff championship type of caliber team, and I was like, I feel like the star power of Carmelo is sort of what we got here, to where it's like, do we want to bring that type of guy onto this team, or do we want to bring somebody that we don't have to worry about in the same way? Because I was like, Darko, I was like, he's 7 feet, and back then, big men really is a thing, and it's like, the idea I feel like is a little bit differently of, I was like, he can sit, but he can also play, but there's not that same, there's no pressure in the same way as if we bring Carmelo Anthony here. It's like, dang, is he going to be over here fighting Tayshaun Prince for minutes? I was like, is he over here, like, how do we get him minutes? I was like, he's a star type of talent type player. We need to give him. I was like, I think that pressure also factored into this, and that's why I sort of think with like Cooper is that I feel like the way with this, like, say if it was last year's draft, I don't think people would have any of these concerns at all. I think they would just be like, oh, just draft the kid and like whatever, just because the talent of last year wasn't looked at as the way that this year's is. And I was like, I think it's really because since it's Cooper, and I was like, he's been like the talent prospect for like 2-3 years. I was like, I was like battling with like the Olympics team of like the actual vets in the league and stuff. That it's like, and everybody seen him as like this. I wouldn't say I was like, I don't think he's been put up in like generational talent type of player, but basically in the star, build a team around him type of player, franchise type player, and I think that carries a different weight to it. All right, he's on the team. I was like, dude, what do you do with it? He has to play, right? I was like, he's the number one pick. You got to let him have a chance to learn, but also this is a team that's like, who is he also beating out? So I think that's the limit that they got. Me, I was like, the thing is that I really don't see who they can trade for. That I think is bigger problem. I was like, I know there's like the rumblings of like, oh, just give him Giannis. And it's like, okay, cool. So it's like you would have to give him Giannis, then you had to give him Clay, and then you had to give him some more of your bench or whatever like that. And then it's like, what, you're going to have a Giannis, you're going to have like Giannis, Anthony Davis, and which one of ever the centers they keep type of thing. I think Gafford's deal is actually up, so it would be. So I was like, they would have to give a Lively or whatever. So it's like Anthony Davis back to the 5, and Giannis is at the 4, and all this other stuff. And I was like, to me, I was like, I don't think that's the right trade. I was like, and then there's nobody else that I feel like for the weight of this number one pick that there really is a trade. So to me, I think they should go ahead and probably keep it. I was like, look, you gave away Luka, and I was like, but you got this talent here. I'd seen people basically sort of. I was like, I feel like because he went to the Mavs, they sort of threw him at small forward, and it's like I think he could play there, but I was like, he's really a. I was like, to me, he's sort of to me is like a Harrison Barnes type of player, where it's like I was like, he could do the 3 and the 4. I ain't talking about a comp. I'm just saying of like his size and like the way he moves. I was like, he could be your 4, but he can be a 3. But I was like, his eventual spot is going to sort of be at the 4 to take advantage of people at that spot or whatever. So I was like, I think this is not a 2 timeline thing. I think this is a spot where this works a whole lot better. Not saying that there is really even a choice here. I was like, unless Nico gets froggy and just was like, bye-bye, and he gets something off the wall, maybe. I did it with the Mavericks. I did have a thought of like, oh, they should try to get Kevin Durant, which I was like, I do think that they should. But now that they got Cooper, I feel like that's a different deal, because that's not an even trade to me in that type of way. It's a trade I could see them doing, but I was like, that's not a trade I feel comfortable with. But I think that he will work fine. I was like, because you also with Dallas, who's on their bench? Who's on their bench? I was like, one of the centers. If they keep both of them, one of the centers, PJ Washington, who also will be fighting with Cooper Flagg in that sense, because Cooper's not big enough to be at the 5 at this point in his career. So I was like, does he go have PJ also at the 3? So now you got 2 dudes at the 3 when their best spot is at the 4. And as far as guard, I was like, Hardy, like. So I was like, him playing a bench role, I think would help. I was like, it get his feet wet. He gets to play against secondary competition or whatever. I was like, if you do have the option that if you do want to go big, because he is bigger than PJ, I was like, that you want to go like this big, ultra big lineup where it's like Clay, him, Anthony Davis, Lively. I was like, you could do that. If you want to go small, Anthony Davis at the 5, him at the 4. I was like, you could do that. I don't think that this is. I do hate that. I was like, if you're like, I was like, because I was like, it's a stickler with the whole Warrior thing, and I was like, they had too many players and they're trying to plug in at too many spots, and I think that's what it is. Like, if it was just James Wiseman, they'd give all their attention there. If it was just Moody, all that, but I was like, all of them. I think it has hampered when you have that many players with so many with like such a veteran championship team. Here, while you do have a championship-ish team, I was like, cause Kyrie's gonna be out, but I was like, you still got a team that can vie for the playoffs. That I was like, to me, I was like, I never liked the idea of just having a young player on a team that's going to be sorry as hell and just be like, let him figure it out. I was like, nah, let him be on a team that basically like got something to play for. So that means that it's even more like to him that he's like you got to get with the program, you got to develop, and I was like, he playing against dudes that got some championship pedigree, got some playoff wear, instead of just playing against dude that you already know that you was like, I'm already beating him out on minutes, I'm already starting over that dude, the ball's gonna run through me constantly. I was like, it lets him also play in a different role too, because now it's not centered around him, it's centered around everybody else, and he's gonna have to get in the fit in. And guess what, there will be a time, not just because Anthony Davis might get hurt, but there will be a time that's like, guess what, this experiment might be over, and guess what, you still got Cooper Flagg, and you get rid of some of these other dudes, and then your future might be Lively and Cooper, and then you figure out, some of them other pieces. But guess what, because he sort of did all this other stuff, it's going to make it better, because it's like, he's not going to forget how to be the man or nothing like that. That's going to come up and sometimes during the season as well. To me, to me, it could be sort of like I don't know if anybody remember like when Giannis first came to the league, and I was like, he was going through different coaches and different stuff, that they were doing different things with him, and I was like, that's sort of why we got the Giannis we got today, where it's like, oh, okay, but they ran him at point guard when he was like 6'10", when he would like they were trying out that type of thing. And I'm just like, him being on a team that already got some players and already got this other stuff that's like he could develop other part of his game. Like, guess what? We don't need you to be over here today to spot up and shoot. Guess what? Now he done learn how to be in the corner, spot up and shooting. We want you to bring the ball up. I was like, we ain't got a point guard tonight. You probably one of our best. I was like, one of our best ball handlers. All right, cool. Now he done figured out how to play point forward. I was like, he'll play sometimes in the post. I was like, he'll play with other bigs. Sometimes he'll be the only big. To me, I feel like it would. I think it will rapidly develop him while also letting him take his time. I know that's sort of a weird thing, but I'm like, whereas if you're just the guy on the team, you're just sort of doing everything and you just let it all come to you. And I was like, that could be also a lot. Now, I will say, because I just talked about how Nico could, throw this whole thing for a loop. That's like, oh, we got a replacement for Luka, and he's like, no, you don't, and he could jettison him. I thought about this one weird thing that Nico could do that could probably, I was like, because we're dealing with a guy that's sort of like being unconventional, might happen. And by that I mean, since he wears a lot of, I was like, I don't have any, but up Nico's sleeve could be an ace, and I'm talking about Bailey, and I'm talking about that he could take the 6'5" point guard because there's no Kyrie. And not only, I was like, I think he will still sign Kyrie, but I was like, I think it's a backup plan. I was like, they haven't had any good guards really there. I was like, while I do like Hardy, I was like, he could be erratic and whatever. I was like, he really is a six man, or whatever. But they're going to need a guard, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, could he pull the trigger and instead of getting Cooper Flagg, he gets a point guard because Kyrie's hurt, and that's an automatic fill-in or whatever. He's a big dude. I was like, a play that you could just put him in at day one and it'd be fine. You still got the rest of your team. You still got the rest of your lineup. I was just saying, it's a little, I was like off the wall, but I was like, dealing with him might be something to consider, but we just have to see. I was like, that's all. I was like, that's just one of my, if we're already doing like rigged conspiracy, they got the #1 pick. Wouldn't it be crazy if they did something like that too? But anyway, what do you think? Especially about that last one. But I was like, this is a no-brainer. Take Cooper. I think any argument you have over, I was like, I'd rather have wood in the bush than under the stone. And yeah, so anyway, let me know what y'all think. And until then, watch them playoffs.